So I'm working on a portrait photo shoot right now with this one couple that I shot their wedding quite a while ago. And I just wanted to show kind of the reason why I separate layers in my photos. So you can see right here how how I separated it. I just used the select mask feature so that way I could actually get some of the hair detail in there. And I was able to get that pretty well. Um, so let's see. Yeah, so with that separated, I was able to go in and then where did I to go first? Okay, so I was able to go in and I made it the foreground. You can see here just there's a group with this layer mask right here on it. So that's all that's being affected by these layers right under it. So I brightened up everything in that group, and then his face was kind of dark, and also hers, and also like their arms and parts of their shirt. So I went in with another layer of mask, and that's generally where I selected. But I was able to make, you can see how I was able to make a really rough selection over his head and shoulder and arms because we already have this layer mask over it that already has those fine selections. So now, by taking a while, it maybe took me 10 minutes to make that layer mask, but by taking that 10 minutes, now I can go through and just really pretty sloppily brush through and like create new layer masks just because I already have that one created with all that fine detail. So it just really will speed up your workflow later on. So then after that, I one thing I do in a lot of my photos with this also. So when we look at a photo, our eye will generally go to the sharper part of the photo, and so I've noticed that if I can separate the foreground from the background or my subject from the background, and then all that this layer right here is I darken the background a little bit so that way I'd pull my subject forward and create a little bit of depth through just an overall contrast from the foreground to the background. And I also just lowered the contrast of the background since contrast is what makes things look sharp. If something isn't contrasty, it's not really going to look sharp. And so if you take the contrast out of the background, you can really like have a still interesting background, but then take the viewer's eye away from it. And so that way it's still supporting the photo, but what am I trying to say? Yeah, I don't know. Just lowering the contrast in the background, it just makes it look good. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's just something I like to do, I guess. Yeah, and then I also, what else did I do? Okay, and then above that layer, now this is the way that I organize in Photoshop. So I have this layer right here is everything that's affecting that area that's not in red. And then everything that I make under that is going to only affect our background since we have this layer of just them in there. So now we can affect our background by putting things under them. Now everything that we put over them, over this group right here, is just going to affect our entire image. So I didn't bring the brightness up. I brought that up in curves. Yeah, so I brought that up in curves, and then I actually need to go and dial that back a little bit. So always one of my final steps with most layers is I'll just go and dial back that entire layer because typically I over edit it. I think most people do. Really fast also, I'll show you here really fast. So a quick curve that's really it's a really good curve. It's really like good at bringing out the details in your photos, and it's really awesome for portraits with like hair and things like that. So we're gonna go into our curve. I wanted this overall brighter, so I can drag that up. And now I'm going to, alright, well, I need to get rid of that opacity. Okay, drag that down a bit now. Okay, so you make that one point in the middle, drag that, that's gonna set like your overall brightness for the photo. Now we're gonna make another point just halfway between your center point and that bottom point. And we're gonna drag that down a little bit. You can see how it's affecting a lot really fast. So be really, really subtle with that. Honestly, don't really need much in that one, because now we're going to make one more point right down here near the bottom. Now, as we pull that down, if we zoom in on Abby's hair, okay, so you can see how as we bring that down, it almost makes her hair look sharper just because we're adding this contrast to it, and so then it gives a greater like range for us. We have a brighter white and a darker dark, and so it overall is going to make that look sharper without having to like increase sharpness or something like that. It's also going to pull out more grain. So that's a good way to make it look sharper while also being smoother. Yeah. Okay, that's looking pretty good now. I'm gonna okay, yes, that's looking pretty decent. Probably dial that around a bit. But that's gonna be pretty close to my final image there. So yeah, hopefully that helps with a few of those tips. Comment below if you have any other videos or little tips that you want me to make a tutorial about. And yeah, that's all.